Hello, good evening, welcome to Upfront. Tonight, that particular threat from the minority in Ghana's parliament insisting government pay up the District Assembly's common fund, every peso of it, since it last owed the districts across the country, all face its wrath. That threat, the response, plus who are the freshest Metropolitan District Chief Executives in the Republic of Ghana. That's the conversation on Upfront tonight. But I'm told I can go straight and speak to the man who's recently secured the ticket of the people and the confirmation, boasted or by way one way or the other, by the executive president to lead the metropolitan area in Kumasi. A KMA boss himself, Sampan, joins me now. Welcome, sir, to Upfront.
Hello.
If you can hear me, you're welcome, sir.
Yes, thank you very much.
Let me start from, and first I need to say congratulations to you. You were one person that had threats hovering over your head before you secured the nomination. The threats emboldened with they saying they'll reject you if the debt at the KMA is not paid. But finally you sailed through. Let's talk about what you intend to do with KMA, Sampan. Exactly what's the vision to lift Kumasi and restore it as the garden city of West Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much, Anna. A good evening to your listeners. Yes, it's important that we look at the totality of giving Kumasi and Assemblies region, as a matter of fact, a very good facelift. When we were kids, we used to refer to the city as the garden city. It's one thing that historically back is important and dear to my heart. It's not only talking about a garden city, but a sustainable garden city. That one, the one that after some years we'll go back to it again. Again, we have issues with sanitation, and how do we tackle it? How can we develop and create wealth from the waste that we produce here? It's also one issue that we look at. Security / the lighting within the city. I wouldn't want to see a teacher pick his bag early in the morning and it's attacked on the way by rogues or thieves because there are no lights around. And that's one thing that I've fixed my mind on helping to do. It's like the flooding situations that we have in place. How do we resolve it? And if you can't, if you have an issue where you don't get to the root of it, the cause of it all, it will be very difficult to have a remedy. All right, so therefore, we're looking at how we can get the experts to give us the exact cause of it, within engineering. And we believe also that possibly the cause of human behavior, like those who dump waste into the drains and all that. Then the other factors. So these are some of the important things that we should tackle and make sure the city of Kumasi regains its glory.
KMA boss. Akwasi Ejima was known as Okunkom because of his exploits in that particular area. Do you wish to leave a legacy like him?
I wouldn't wish to leave a legacy like anyone. I wish to leave a legacy of some kind. Okay. A legacy of something that people will point to and tell the world that yes, Sampai was the Metropolitan Chief Executive. That these are the good things that he left behind. That the name Sampai will also be associated, but not to associate with someone else. So that is why I also have my vision and I have a mission to accomplish that. And definitely with the help of the populace of Kumasi, traditional authorities, for my colleagues, politicians and all that, I believe we can make it.
There's a security issue that's recently raised. That issue is to do with the isolated, if you like to call it that way, but the consistent reports about killings in the metropolis. Have you gotten to the bottom of this? What's really the problem?
Well, I've not gotten, I think very honest with you, I've not gotten to the bottom of it. 3 days ago, I was privy to discussions with the security couples within the metropolis, the region. and we're not putting up strategies. It's everything about strategy, about security strategies that I can divulge publicly to but I'm not leaving it down. That's why I told you that one important thing I wish to see is that we have enough lighting in all the dark places to check some of these things. So yes, security is very dear to my heart because you wouldn't know when a loved one or even somebody you don't know losing one life not good enough. So we working so hard, and I believe with the help of the security agencies and the other guys who are doing work, we all going to work together and make sure that some of these matters are, if not completely taken up to the embarrassment.
One single issue was almost undermining your vote at the Assembly. That issue is to do with debt at the KAB. In fact, the president was convinced that could not be held over your head. But what are you doing about the debts that the Assembly members complain about?
It's the debt that I can make, if you permit me, refer to as a legacy debt. It's
okay.
The debt that sitting on the books of the Assembly for several years, more than 10 years. And therefore, but when this matter came up, I've had lengthy discussion with the chief of staff. The president himself is in the known. The president directed the local government and decentralization minister to work hand in hand with the finance ministry to bring a resolution to that. We establish the facts, if they are genuine debts and all that. And definitely we're working on it because it affects the running of the Assembly, honestly. If we have the debt and we are supposed to use a common fund and other funding to pay off that debt, what will be left for us to do our own development will be a challenge. So therefore, it's something that I'm not sitting down looking at it as if I do not care. It's a matter dear to my heart.
But you're convinced you'll be paid anytime soon?
Pardon me?
You're convinced it will be serviced anytime soon?
Of course, when we establish the veracity or otherwise of it, we're going to look at it. And I'm very much convinced because with the commitment the president put in, when I submitted documentation to the chief of staff, I believe we're going to work on that. That's
already going to put a strain on your common fund and other sources. How are you going to manage it?
So far, we need to look at the resources available and spend it by priority, not any other spending, any other expenditure which would be near to the benefits of the Assembly. And we're going to be circumspect in how we share those resources until that is enough to get into other things that we want to do.
Before I let you go, how much have you received in terms of common fund?
I've been office on the 12th of October, and I've not received any common fund. I believe it will be something that will be discussed. I know we have some meetings with the ministry and the rest next week, and that's when we're going to lay out the plans. I've not received any common fund between the 12th of October and today.
I am grateful to you for your time, and I appreciate you joining us today, Sampine.
Sure. Thank you very much.
So Sampine is the president's man in Kumasi, who is the KMA boss. Many thanks to you for joining us on this particular one. I did promise you that the man leading the charge against the government of the Republic of Ghana, the man who is insisting and issuing threats against the state, in the very person of the Member of Parliament and Deputy Ranking Member for the Local Government Committee, Ben Menkpodo is my guest. Honorable, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
I hope you are doing well.
Yes, I am, and I hope you're also doing well.
Yeah, I am doing great. I'm only worried about why you are just after COVID issuing threats against government over payment of District Assemblies Common Fund. Exactly what is your perturbation with how government is running the finances, which are mandated to be sent to the various districts?
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection. Please.
Yes, Honorable, you're the one asking the question.
I'd like to take off from where Honorable Sampine ended. He said he has just taken office, he's not received any common fund. The fact is that no district assembly, you know, when we say district assembly, it's generic.
Okay.
It covers metropolitan, municipal, as well as district assemblies in the country. No one of them has received any payment of the common fund since the fourth quarter of 2020.
And what's the source of this information?
Well, the assemblies are there. If you ask any one of them, they will tell you they have not.
So, okay.
And the district assemblies common fund has not disbursed any money. You see, the Constitution is very clear in Article 252.
Okay.
That there will be a common fund, and then not less than 5% of total revenue of Ghana should be paid to that fund to enable the fund to disburse these monies based on a formula that is normally approved from year to year to the assemblies. Because
but the provision you are reading says in part that Parliament shall make provision for the allocation of the not less than 5% of the total revenues of Ghana to the District Assembly for development.
Yes.
And the amount shall be paid into a District Assembly common fund with quarterly installments.
By quarterly installments.
So first, has Parliament made these provisions for the allocation?
Yes, Parliament has approved the formula.
Okay.
Yes, Parliament approved the 2020 formula way back March 2020.
Okay.
And this year too, Parliament has approved the formula for the disbursement of the common fund to the assemblies and to whatever purpose the fund has to be used for. So Parliament has done its job. But the district assemblies common fund, the DACF Secretariat, cannot disburse the monies because it does not have the money from the Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance collects the money through GRA, and then it directs, it releases whatever they have collected, 5% of it. It releases it to the common fund. Controller transfers the money to the account of the district assemblies common fund. So if this assemblies common fund secretariat cannot disburse money to the assemblies, the only reason is that they do not have the money in their accounts.
Is that what they have told you?
Yes, that is the fact.
You reached out to them?
Yes, this is the fact.
Okay.
Yes, and even Auditor General has checked, and for 2019, there is an amount of 700 million Ghana cedis outstanding. 2019? Yes.
This is pre-COVID?
Yes, 2019. You see, the interesting thing about it is that towards the 2020 half-year budget review, and the supplementary estimates, you can see clearly that it is the borrowed money for COVID that they took 144 million from to pay the arrears owed from 2017 to 2018. Even that was just part settlement.
You on the finance committee?
Yes, this is the finance committee document produced by the Minister for Finance, Minister of Finance, 2020 supplementary budget, details of expenditure. So that is where I'm quoting this figure from. Those were the, it is headed payments of outstanding claims, statutory funds. So you have these assemblies common fund, 144 million, National Health Insurance Fund, 335 million, and so on and so forth. So that was part settlement of the arrears for 2017, 2018. Then 2019, from the Auditor General's report, 700 million is still being owed. Then we come to 2020. The
COVID year proper.
Yes. In spite of the COVID, revenues were generated in the first quarter, generated in the second quarter. And we have the figures.
So first,
for the first quarter...
Before you conclude this, let people understand how the District Assemblies Common Fund,
yes,
the article you just referenced, the 252,
yes,
is clear about what's the source.
Yes.
The source is 5%,
yes,
not less than 5%.
Not less than. In fact, during President Kufuor's period, he even raised it to 7.5%.
Oh, I see. For the district. Oh, I see.
Yes, and this was sustained during the era of President Mills and President John Dramani Mahama.
Okay.
But when NPP came to power in 2017, they dropped it to 5%, back to the constitutionally mandated 5%.
So Kufuor raised it to 7.5.
Yes.
Then it was sustained during that time until 2017.
Yes.
And it was dropped back to 5%.
Yes.
So this 5% is the amount that has to be sent to every district for the operations.
You see, there is an intervention somewhere along by Parliament. When the amount is calculated and given to the fund, or is supposed to be given to the fund,
the District Assemblies Common Fund.
Yes, Parliament has to approve the formula.
Okay, I get you.
Yes, so Parliament will approve the formula. Then the funds will be disbursed to the District Assemblies Common Fund for onward disbursement to the assemblies and any other expenditure that may be approved by Parliament.
It's interesting this thing is clarified properly.
Yes.
So could it be possible that the money is left the coffers of the, let's say, accountant general's end, and yet is within the loop somewhere?
No. Emphatically, no. The money has not reached the account of the District Assemblies Common Fund.
Do we have the money?
We should have the money.
I mean,
because
the question actually is a very direct one. I know you are not the finance ministry. I know you are not the one who collects the money. The question I'm asking is whether we have the money sitting in an account somewhere.
Well, I cannot answer that
because
question.
the financial year we're talking about, you are talking about the end of 2020 first.
Yes, yes.
So the last quarter of 2020.
You see, the practice is that even when the government writes, or the Minister of Finance writes to Common Fund, that this is the amount you are due to take for this quarter, they do not immediately release all of it. They keep on paying sometimes in small bits.
Okay.
Yes. For instance, quarter 3 of 2020, the Ministry of Finance released 447,346,881 Ghana cedis by letter to the to the Common Fund. And by letter means they wrote to them? Yes, that is the notification that this is how much
you should receive.
Yes, representing the 5%. So it's supposed to pay that 447, but it's paid 305 million.
So what happened to the 147?
Well, the Ministry of Finance has not paid it to the Common Fund. Even as we sit here now. So that's third quarter of 2020.
Really?
Yes.
And not even the fourth one. So there's arrears going back as third quarter of 2020.
Yes. But I've told you that the arrears due from 2019.
Yes. I am confused because you mentioned the last quarter of 2020 as a quarter that they've not paid any personal from.
No, they have not paid. Please take your time and listen to me carefully. The release was 447 million.
Okay.
But they paid 305 million.
Okay.
Then forward to the fourth quarter, the last quarter, they wrote a release letter for 434 million. But again paid up to 200 million. Indeed, they had paid 150 by the end of
2020.
Yes. But the 50 million, the additional 50 million was even paid just this September. To take care of the fourth quarter of 2020. But cumulatively, we would say that 200 million out of the 434, which they released to the this Assemblies Common Fund.
So they paid
only 200 million.
half of.
Well, 200 million is not half of 4.
Okay,
yeah.
I mean,
it's not half, about.
They paid about half of, of the
that, yes.
amount due the fourth quarter.
Yes.
Yes.
And then they are already owing 142 for the third quarter. And they were again owing 234 for the fourth quarter.
I get you.
Based on their letter released.
I get
now, there's something curious about the fourth quarter, which
explain.
Which we are very worried about. From another source, the Ministry of Finance itself computed month by month amounts due to this Assemblies Common Fund, which added up to 644 million, roughly 645 million. But curiously, the letter of release read 434.5.
So they didn't send 5%?
They didn't release all.
Okay.
In fact, this matter came up on the floor of Parliament, and the Speaker requested that we should go and do a reconciliation.
Okay.
Now,
with the Finance Ministry people?
Yes, with the Minister of Finance, and Controller. But we haven't sat down formally to do the reconciliation. But because I knew some of the figures, we had a meeting with Minister of Finance in Kofodra. So I raised the matter with the Chief Director. You know his response? He said they did not release the full 644 because they felt that if they did so, they would have been exceeding the amount appropriated in the 2020 budget. So I went back to check whether that could be true. And I found out that his explanation was not acceptable. Because even if the whole of the 644 were released to the Assemblies Common Fund, it will just amount to 1,800,000,000, which is short of the 2.3 billion that was approved for
the entire year.
Yes, the entire year.
I see.
What was approved in Parliament was 2,300,000,000. Let me get the exact figure. Yeah, this is the formula which was approved by Parliament for the Assembly. That was 2,312,706,550. You get the point?
I get you.
So even if all the 644 were approved, it would have added up to 1.8 billion, which is lower than the
2.3 billion.
So that was no explanation at all. So the reason why they would calculate themselves 644.8 million and then release 434.5 is a mystery. Now, even the 434,
how much did they pay?
200 million.
That one too?
Yes.
I see. I was interested.
So we consider that this Assemblies Common Fund is being owed 444.8 or 0.9 million.
Okay, 448 or 444 million.
444.9 million.
Okay.
That is based on their own calculations.
That's true.
Which would have ended up at 1.8.
Okay.
But you know, revenues go up and down.
Yeah.
The estimate. So I don't want to match the releases against the approved budget.
Very well.
I'm taking their own computations.
Okay.
Yes. Granting that that was what they got for the period. So using their own computations, it means that for the fourth quarter of last year, they are owing 444,888,000.
Okay.
You see? Now, come to 2021, the letter they issued as a release letter is 434.3 million. Out of that, not even a peso has been released to this Assemblies Common Fund.
Did they give reasons for it?
No reason.
Did you ask them?
Yes.
And what was the reason?
Well, they already said there is no fund to be released.
There's no money?
Yes.
Sorry, but they collected
They collected, you see, this is the mystery.
Okay.
You collect the taxes.
Yeah.
And you yourself have declared that I collected so much.
Yeah.
5% of the money is due to you.
And if
so you write a letter.
Then you write a letter saying that this is the amount due.
This is the amount due to you. Give it out, then you are sitting down there. That's our worry.
Did they say that they are using the money for something else?
Well, they did not confirm that publicly, that they have used the money for a particular expenditure other than releasing it to the assemblies. But what would you guess yourself? That's the meaning, that they have used the amount for another thing. That's why we were describing it as misapplication.
Okay.
So that's one of our charges.
Is that an offense?
When they give you they give you a directive, use 300 million for this, for buying a vehicle,
yeah,
and you go and use it for another thing, that is misapplication. It is wrong. Especially financial management, you are wrong to do that.
Especially
because you have to go and seek
permission from those who
gave you the authorization that, we have...
How was this done? You're on the finance committee.
Yes, this was not done.
Never, throughout.
Nobody on the finance committee can tell you the reason why these monies have not been released to the assemblies.
Is there a justified reason to say that there was a difficulty with having to pay to them? Because there's an admission that we need to pay you, let's say, 434. This is the first quarter of 2021, but yet we have not released the money to you.
You cannot find any acceptable reason to say so, because the law is very, very clear that when you collect 100 million, give 5 million to the assemblies. Simple. And you have collected it. You have accepted that you have collected it, and you have even declared what that 5% is for the assembly. So give it to them.
And that's vacuum that is not been done. But we've not been hearing the assemblies complain.
Then you are not listening.
Now I'm talking about the various assemblies, not you in parliament.
No, the assemblies are complaining to us.
You, the MPs.
Yes.
Of course, you are part of the assembly.
Because we are part of the assemblies.
That's true.
And there's a lot of work to be done in the assemblies.
Yeah.
They have awarded some contracts. This thing is all about development.
Because they have their own budget.
They have their own budget. They have awarded contracts. Contractors have executed some parts of the project.
And they've not been paid.
They've not been paid. So their certificates are lying on the tables of the coordinating directors, the MFOs, and the acting chief executives. So they cannot do anything. Sometimes they don't even want to go to the office because they don't want to go and face the wrath of creditors.
I was just speaking to a new, and let's be fair, since the beginning of this year, there were no new, MMDCs.
But
I was just
letters went out to the existing chief executives to continue acting, except that
they will not take
major decisions.
All right.
Yeah, but what about the decisions that were taken prior to
they leave in office, as in the year ending?
Yes.
Okay, but the clear-cut indication I got from Sampine that for a big assembly like KMA, they've not received the money.
Are you talking of the big assemblies?
No, I'm talking about they have not received money in KMA.
Wait.
Yeah.
KMA and AMA and STMA, maybe Tamale too. They are big assemblies.
And they can find money.
They can find money from their markets, from other projects that they are executing, and live on that. But if you go to assemblies which don't even have markets, go to Akachi North, go to Adakulu. They don't have even a market where they trade and then they issue, what do you call it?
They can't collect IGF.
They cannot collect market tools.
So how do these assemblies run their development plans?
That is the question. That is the question. I wish you can bring one of these assemblies chief executives to answer this question.
I've been looking for that. I don't know if there's. I don't know. I've been trying to get, and I've been scanning. Clearly trying to get assemblies who are available to speak to about how they are running their system and verify. And that I needed to do that. Verify from them whether what you're saying is true. That's why I actually brought some Pie and Co on to be able to understand.
He has confirmed to you. But I'm sure that in his handing over notes, he will realize that his predecessor had not received any common fund
for the
since
period.
the fourth quarter of last year. In fact, the last payment was in respect of the third quarter of 2020.
Let me get this straight. Is it strange? Because this is not the first time we've heard that we've not had...
It's strange. It is strange because at least in the past, if it was so delayed, they would give them the money after about 6 months.
So after about 2 quarters?
Yes.
Okay.
That has been that's another problem which we are contesting.
All right.
You see, the Ministry of Finance has devised a policy by which after the end of the quarter, they will wait until the next quarter is ended. Simply explained, January to March is the first quarter.
That's true.
It's ended. But the Ministry of Finance will not consider the common fund due until after June. That's 3 good months after the end of the quarter, before they will agree that this is what is due to you in the first quarter. So that is another problem we have with the ministry's practice. I must admit that it is not starting from this government.
Okay.
It had been there. But we can pardon the previous government where technology was not very much being applied in the ministries. But here we are, today. Even before you make one expenditure in the public sector, you have to go through the Give Me system.
Okay.
So almost all operations are computerized. GRA is collecting revenue in real time. So at the end of March,
you know.
You should be able to know how much you have collected from January to March ending. And if you don't even know, if you do not even know exactly by 31st March, you do not have to wait for 3 months to be able to know. So it's a ploy for them to manage their
that delay in calculations.
Yes,
actually becomes delay in another quarter.
Yes.
And adding up to it.
Yes. So it's a ploy.
Okay. Now I need you to state
delay the release of funds to the Assembly.
So far.
So we are calling for a change in that policy.
Okay.
So that within 1 month, they should be able to know how much is due to the common fund after the end of the quarter.
So far, how much is owed totally that you calculated?
2,171,000,000.
Okay.
Yes, that's the amount being owed to the Assembly's common fund. 2 billion plus.
Honorable, hold on to that. After the break, we will delve deeper into it, but we'll take a break now. You're welcome back. Now, as I did tell you earlier on, my guest today is the Member of Parliament for Ho Central. He's also the Deputy Ranking on the Local Government Committee. Earlier today, he did a press conference threatening to drag the government of the Republic of Ghana to court. His charge was that government is refusing to release monies that the Constitution says it should release to the various assemblies. Now, you're welcome. Thank you so much once again, Honorable Benjamin Podo.
Thank you to your viewers as well, especially my constituency in Ho Central.
I mentioned your constituency, but let me get this point clarified.
Yes.
So you are today threatening that you're giving government 1 month. What exactly do you want government to do within the 1 month, and what do they risk if they don't do that?
Government should abide by the Constitution, which clearly states that the amount shall be paid into the District Assembly's common fund in quarterly installments. So if you are not releasing the money to the fund in quarterly installments, you are violating the Constitution.
But they're not releasing the money at all.
They are not. Yeah. That is why we want to go to court for the Supreme Court to compel them to obey the law.
Mostly, I mean, so what's not clear about this directive that you want clarity on?
No, I don't see what you yourself are not clear about.
No, I'm asking what is unclear about this directive.
This is very, very clear.
So you want them compelled to act?
Exactly. We want the Supreme Court order that will compel the government to release the funds on a quarterly basis to the Assemblies Common Fund.
But would it not be unfair to them, especially when you know the reasons why they're not releasing the funds?
Who told you that I know the reason?
But you told me that you met the chief director and he said that there were problems with getting the money to the people.
He didn't tell me that there was any problem.
Really?
No, he didn't tell me. Because, and will I be convinced? I cannot ever be convinced that you have collected the tax, you have collected the revenues, and you are saying that you cannot release it. Why?
Anyway, now the question I'm asking next is, you've been to court before.
Yes.
In fact, you've been to the Supreme Court before.
Yes.
What's the difference between that case and this one you intend to pursue?
Yes. When I first went to the Supreme Court, the reliefs I sought, one, that the government should stop capping the Assemblies Common Fund. The government in 2017 introduced a law, which we call earmarked funds capping and realignment. The idea was that all earmarked funds put into a box should not exceed 25% of revenue. So what they did was that they would compute the amount due to every earmarked fund, like this Assemblies Common Fund, Get Fund, Health Insurance Fund, and all the other ones. Then they will get a ceiling of 25% of revenue. Then whatever they get there, they will now come and redistribute among these earmarked funds. So if Get Fund was, say, for instance, going to take 2 billion and it was capped, it could come down to 1.6 billion. Yes, and if
this is because government wanted more
money at the center.
So that they can spend it how they want it.
Yes.
All right.
They thought that they had priority projects, this $1 million to every constituency, which have been ceded to the development authorities. Then free senior high school. They are all good projects, but you do not have to starve the other funds. For instance, this Assemblies Common Fund has been created by Constitution. So it is not any statutory fund in the ordinary sense. So
because it's a constitutional provision that makes it possible.
Yes. So you cannot pass a law in Parliament like the earmarked capping fund.
To cap it.
To cap it. To take money from it. You cannot do that. So we went to court to get that cleared. And the Supreme Court agreed with us, and stopped the Ministry of Finance from capping it. The second
is government complying?
Yes, now they don't cap it.
All right, that's interesting.
In fact, a bill was brought to Parliament to delete this Assemblies Common Fund from the list of funds that
are being capped.
To cap.
Interesting.
So that is out. The second one was that the law which they passed for local government and this Assemblies Common Fund excluded one major source, non-tax revenues. Non-tax revenues. They said this Assemblies Common Fund could not benefit from non-tax revenues, such as revenue from cocoa sales, revenue from oil and other petroleum, oil and gas receipts. So that was one other reason we went to court, that total revenue should include all revenue.
And not just part of it.
And not just tax revenue. So the Supreme Court again agreed that all revenue which would be available to government for spending in a particular year must cede 5% to the Assemblies Common Fund. Because
the Section 2 is clear. It says, subject to provisions of the Constitution, Parliament shall make provision for the allocation of not less than 5% of the total revenue of Ghana.
Yes. So we had a problem with the definition of total revenue
of Ghana. In
fact, this law here, this is the Local Government Act. It clearly excludes non-tax revenue. This section 126. Total revenues of the country includes revenues collected by or accruing to the central government other than foreign loans and foreign grants. Truly, they are not our revenues. Foreign donors give us money to do something, we cannot consider it as revenue. If you go and borrow from the international market, it is not revenue. So you have to, you don't have to share it over these assemblies. Then they added here non-tax revenue, petroleum revenue paid into the petroleum holding fund.
Okay.
So these are the two that we took to court.
Okay.
And the court agreed with us that non-tax revenue is part of total revenue. Petroleum revenue paid into the petroleum holding fund is also part of total revenue.
So in essence, you fought for more money for the district assemblies?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why we did. But, you know, they are still playing tricks, even with the ruling of the Supreme Court.
How so?
Cocoa used to contribute to the total revenue of Ghana. But since the MPP came to power, they have decided to take export duty on cocoa from the total revenue. So now cocoa does not contribute to the revenues any longer.
Really?
Yes.
Is that strange?
Very, very. In fact, it's against the law.
Really?
Yes, because once the nation realizes revenues from cocoa beans, which we sell outside, it should be part of total revenue. But they have taken it out.
If they take cocoa out, it means that the determination of 5% would exclude cocoa.
Yes. And not only that, the oil revenues, which should have also been fully part of total revenue, there is a problem with it. The problem with it is that they cede part of the oil revenue to GNPC.
Okay.
So that one is also deducted from the petroleum holding funds. So GNPC has part of oil revenue given to it before you come to determine the total amount that is available for distribution.
I see, that's interesting. And it still lowers, because
still
of this conversation.
The pot.
Yes.
It still lowers the pot. Then there's another one, GRA, Ghana Revenue Authority.
Yeah.
Monies allocated to GRA are also taken from total revenue before you come to the balance for deduction for the computation of the 5% due to the Assemblies Common Fund. So these are other things which we are contesting.
Okay, I see. Now, let me get this point clarified. Because you brought in cocoa, if you put it together, how much does it affect the revenue so far? I mean, you say that since 2017, government has not been adding cocoa revenue to the total revenue.
Yes.
How much of that are we looking at?
On the average, it's about 200 million Ghana cedis. See, if you compute it from 2013 up to 2017, the average is, total is about 1 billion.
Okay.
So taking 5 years, the average is about 200 million, which is now not available for the purposes of computing this Assemblies Common Fund. That is it.
And you say this is a breach of what you went to court to clarify?
Yes, because it's non-tax revenue.
I see.
It's non-tax revenue.
Now, coming back to the point you were making earlier, so are you going to seek further clarification? I don't know how else you can fix that problem.
Well, you see, when the Supreme Court gives a ruling, you are supposed to comply with it. If you do not do that, we can still go back to the Supreme Court to cite you for contempt.
Oh, I see.
And it's a serious crime.
Is that what you're considering?
My lawyer will advise me on that.
Okay.
Because I told my lawyer, I requested my lawyer to write to the Ministry of Finance, which he did. And I delivered that letter personally. But they seem not to be ignoring, to be ignoring it.
I see. Now, so you have explained that. So exactly why are you bent on going to court again?
First, to compel them to comply fully with the earlier ruling.
Okay.
And secondly, to add the bit of non-payment on by quarterly installments.
Basis. Yeah, okay.
That is the bit which is even more serious.
Okay.
What you have determined, give it to the assembly. You are not even
if it's not enough, even if it's not the right amount,
give it to them. That one too, you have held it since third quarter of 2020. In fact, the 2019 one is in the Auditor General's report.
Okay. Now you belong to Assembly, right?
Yes.
How is the Assembly coping? Whole Central.
They are in very difficult times. As I was telling you, the staff are so demoralized. I don't want to say that they don't feel like coming to the office, but they are always having problem with creditors. They are owing this person there, they are owing that person there. The projects are no longer being paid for, and they cannot even initiate new projects because they have now gotten used to non-receipt of common fund. So if you award contract for a new project, how are you going to fund it?
Now,
so it's affecting the planning and executing of development projects in the assemblies, not only my municipal assembly, all across the nation.
Within the 1 month, would you give them extra time if they ask for it before to fix the problem?
Well, what is within 1 month?
I say you've given them 1 month, right? Ultimatum.
Yes.
Would you give them extra time if they ask for it to fix it?
Well, it depends on what reason
they are giving you for it.
Have.
Okay.
You see, I showed you something.
Yeah.
That they had to go and borrow to come and fund the arrears.
Okay.
If that is what they are going to do, so be it. Yes. But we believe that they can easily raise the money and pay off these 2 billion. Because the other day they were on the market to borrow, I think 2.1 billion or so.
But I expect them to use the borrowed money to pay for this.
Well, as for the assemblies,
it's not supposed to come from revenue.
Yes, the money has already come from revenue, and they have used it for other things.
Okay, so they should fill in the gap.
They should find money to pay.
That's an interesting point. Now, I want to stay in your constituency a while longer because not long ago, you were in the news for talking about abandoned projects and its related projects in the area. Exactly what is it with the whole Central that has abandoned projects, many of it, schools and other things?
I think I was very, very clear at the time.
Yeah.
The National Democratic Congress government built a school complex in Hojo. See the classrooms, the administration block, dormitories, staff bungalows, completed in 2019. But it has not been put to use. And the whole place was overgrown with weeds. And people have even gone there to cultivate cassava farms, cassava and maize farms.
Okay.
So I approached the Minister for Education that we should put that facility to use.
All right.
So he assured me that he was going to send a team there to come and inspect the project and see what can be done with it. So that is one. The second one is that we started some roads in the constituency, in the municipality. One is from Sokode, the dualization of Sokode to Ho Road. Another one from Sokode through Uhas to Titrino.
Okay.
All of these were abandoned. Ho Barracks through Bengwe, Takla, Hojo to Tokokwe, some 18-kilometer road. That one too has been abandoned. Just a few months to the 2020 election, the contractor was giving some money. He came, spread bitumen on part of the road.
I see.
And since then, he has not gone back because...
Is it because it has not been paid?
Yes. The so-called Bogame to Ho Road is supposed to be a dual carriage. They have done one part of it. The other side is now overgrown with weeds. The contractor is nowhere to be found. There's another one from Ziavi through to Ho West and Fueta.
Okay.
That one too has been abandoned. Then we can say that these are projects started by previous government. That doesn't mean it should not be completed, because tax money has been applied to start it.
Okay.
Then this government itself started what we call this. You know that there are some AstroTurf parks being built across.
Is it a youth center?
Yes.
Okay.
The Youth Resource Development, Resource and Development Center.
Okay.
Actually, the thing is the main thing there is the AstroTurf park.
Okay.
They have abandoned it. Grass has grown on where AstroTurf was supposed to be laid. Then, what do you call it? Cattle is now grazing on that field.
But the president visits the voter region consistently. Exactly why is this not known to him, and is this not being fixed?
Well, I don't know whether he doesn't know, because he has ministers who are supervising all these projects. And in addition, I have filed questions in Parliament, and the ministers have come to answer. There are very fresh ones there now, which they are due to answer. They could not come to answer the questions before we rose. So those things are still hanging over there. All these projects are known to the ministers.
How do the people feel about these projects?
Very disappointed, very frustrated. Because, you see, some of these projects are sources of creating jobs for the artisans, the young men that we have. But if you are not doing the work, where will they get the work? Where will they get jobs to do? So it's created unemployment in the area. Contractors are suffering. They are not doing any work. They cannot engage labor. So the boys are really angry. They are frustrated and angry. You see? So we want the government to come and revive those projects.
Okay.
UHAS was started by Professor Mills. Faculties are expected to be built. And nothing is happening any longer. Recently, the Chinese have come in again to give a grant of 60 million, which the president came to cut short for.
Yeah.
So we will be seeing something over there. But it's long overdue.
I get you.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I ran out of time. I'm sure we can continue some of the conversation later, but my guest in studio on these important District Assembly Common Fund amounts that have not been submitted is the Honorable Benjamin Podo. He's the one who's issued the 1-month ultimatum to government, risking taking them to court over the non-payment of these funds. That's where we leave Upfront today. Many thanks to you for joining us.